Every now and again, I make some homemade rosemary bread, and the very best thing to do with the rosemary bread is to make some chicken pesto melts. So today, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to make our rosemary bread is we're going to give 2 cups of lukewarm water. When a recipe calls for lukewarm water, I like to have my water between 110 and 115 degrees. You can go ahead and use a candy thermometer to test that if you want to, or you can go by feel if you've been making it enough. So you want to put some sugar. This is 1 tablespoon of sugar. Just want to put that in and stir it around. I'll use my thermometer to stir it around just to make sure it's kind of melted in there really good. That's just going to help your yeast a little bit. Then you want to take 1 packet. This is just some dry yeast. Scissors here. And put that in there. And it's important to let your yeast sit for about 10 minutes. So just put it in there. It's fine on top of the water. It's not going to hurt it. And let it sit there for about 10 minutes. And while that is sitting there, I'm going to set it aside here. Okay, well that's setting aside. We're going to put in our bowl 4 cups of flour. Just regular flour. 2 teaspoons of salt. I just use sea salt. Okay, and we're going to chop some rosemary. Okay, this is some fresh rosemary. I actually have a rosemary plant, but it's not doing very well right now. So you can use dried rosemary from the can if you want to. I like the fresh because it's a little more pungent, and I love that it has a lot more flavor to it. You want to put a liberal amount, about at least a couple of tablespoons of it. And you want a little bit more to sprinkle over the top. Chopping this rosemary is going to bring out a lot of the flavor in it as well. Oh my gosh, I love rosemary. This is my favorite, I think, and it smells amazing. Okay, so we're going to add that in there. Okay. This will give a really nice flavor to the bread. I'm going to check on the yeast mixture and see if that's done. Okay, you can see that our yeast, I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but it has formed like a, I don't know, it's kind of frothed up a little bit. That's because the yeast is active. That's when you know that your yeast is good. So it's kind of puffed up, and that's what you want it to do. That's why we wait when we put it in the water. And that's why you need the water to be the right temperature. So, okay, so we're going to add this to the dry ingredients. Slowly put it in there. And we're going to mix that around. I know some of you are a little skeptical about cooking with yeast, and I can understand that because I was there once too. I have a friend in particular who has asked me to show her some yeast breads. So Marcia, this is for you. This is a really easy recipe. It's delicious. And it's really great that you can change it up too, because I like the rosemary just because I like rosemary, but you don't have to do it with rosemary. I have also done this recipe with sun-dried tomatoes and basil. That's great, and my kids call that pizza bread. It tastes literally like pizza. It's so delicious. So that's just a way to do it as well. Okay, so this is gonna kind of look a little bit shaggy. It's not gonna look very smooth, and it's not intended to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this rise in the bowl. Just gonna let it sit in here and rise until it's doubled. Scrape off my spoon to get all of that goodness off and into the bowl. Okay, so we're gonna cover this with a cloth. And we're gonna let it sit until it's at least doubled a little bit. Okay, so our bread has been sitting for a while, and you can see it's up there ways. I actually let it go a little bit longer than an hour, but I had somebody stop in, so. All right, so I'm going to take some olive oil and oil my hands a little bit, and I'm gonna spread some around the pan. This is just it's a baking stone. You can use a regular sheet pan or whatever you want. You can use a bread pan if you want to. But where I'm making these for using the bread for sandwiches, I'm going to make them into buns. So I'm gonna do 2 of those. So what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna form a bun with each one of these. These are the best sandwiches ever, and I really think that it's the combination of the bread and the chicken and the pesto and the bacon and the fresh mozzarella. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil on the tops of these, just a little bit. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I want to sprinkle the tops of these with some sea salt and rosemary. And that's going to stick on here a lot better if I do the oil on top of it. It's just going to kind of hold it on there a little bit. A little bit of sea salt. And a little bit of rosemary. Isn't that great? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set this by the stove, and I'm gonna just kind of let it raise maybe a little bit more. Doesn't have to sit very long, just a little bit to kind of puff it up from where we had kind of bothered it a little bit. It kind of sinks when you bother it. So I'm just gonna let it sit for a little bit, get its strength back, and then we're gonna put it in the oven. Okay, well that is rising a little bit. I'm going to, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to get the bacon ready for our sandwiches. So I'm using maple bacon. I like the maple flavor in the bacon, so that's what I use, but you can use any bacon you want to. I'm going to microwave it instead of cooking it on the stove top. But if you want a stove top cook it, that's fine. If you want to bake it, that's fine too. Might have to do more than one sheet of this bacon, but that's okay. We can do that. It's gonna smell so good. Just line this up here. Okay, I'm gonna do 6 slices. Cover it with a paper napkin. Throw this in the freezer or in the microwave. Okay, so you can see where I let this sit on the stove a little bit. You can see where they've kind of gotten their, I don't know, I say they just got their strength back and kind of plumped up a little bit. So I'm going to put that in the oven. Just gently because I don't want to deflate it. I've got the oven set for 350 and I'm going to cook that until it's done. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. It's going to turn a little bit of a golden color. It won't take that long, probably 20-30 minutes, and it'll be done. Okay, so our bacon is done. Okay, so I am going to transfer these over onto a little paper plate. This is just a rotisserie chicken. That's all you need to use, really. I mean, you could, if you have a chicken already cooked, you can certainly use that. I just buy the rotisserie one. It's already got all the nice seasonings on it. It tastes so good, and it's a whole lot easier instead of cooking your chicken, unless you have leftovers. You can certainly use leftovers. This would work great with leftover chicken. Just want to take, you know, pieces. Like, you don't want it chopped up because you're not making a chicken salad. Okay, so I just took the last batch of bacon out and put that on the platter with the chicken. I'm going to cover that and set it aside and check on the bread. If the bread is done, we can go ahead and start putting our sandwiches together. Okay, the bread is done and I pulled it from the oven. You can see what it looks like. They're not huge loaves, so it's not gonna, you know, be a great big fat loaf like a white bread loaf, or, you know, a loaf of bread or something. This is what it is. But let me grab some pesto and some cheese, and we'll start making our sandwich. Okay, some pesto. It's just a regular pesto. It's nothing special. And some mozzarella. I just want a few slices. Nothing overly thick because we want it to melt up really good. Okay, now with the bread, what I do is I'm going to cut it like this. Okay. Oh my gosh, this smells so amazing. Set this down right here. Okay, and we're going to put some pesto on this. Just gonna spread it around. Just want to get the flavor of it, so you don't want to overpower it. Just get some on there. There's a lot of garlic in this, so it's gonna be amazing. And I like to put some cheese on the outside of this. Okay, so we have our chicken. I'm just gonna lay this a little bit of everywhere on here. This is really an amazing sandwich, so you really need to try it. Okay, and we're gonna take some bacon and lay that on here. And more cheese, of course. Okay, and then I'm going to butter the top with some pesto. This is so warm. If you like pesto, feel free to slather it on there. Okay. And then we're going to put this back on top. All right. We're going to take some foil. Place our sandwich right on top of the foil. And make a pouch. And we're gonna do the same with the next one.
Get to see your smile. I'm up in the clouds and now we're apart. It will take a little longer to get you off my mind tonight. When the sky is cloudy, we just climb right in. You are all I want more than everything. Feels just like I'm flying when I'm here with you. I was standing waiting just.
If you're on a diet, this is not something you want to be eating, because I'm gonna guess it's a lot of calories. Okay, we're gonna put this one on top of this. I feel like I lost some of my rosemary. Some more foil.
Sweetheart, I'll be by your side, and when I do get to see your smile, I'm up in the clouds and now we're apart.
Okay, so we want to put these on a pan and get them in the oven. I'm just going to turn the oven on low, about 275. Put that in there. You don't need anything really warm because you just want it in there for about 8 to 10 minutes, just long enough to let everything heat through and the cheese to melt and warm up, and it's going to be amazing. You wait till I pull it out. So it's out of the oven. We're gonna open it up. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. The smell alone. Okay, you can see how delicious this looks. Okay, I'm gonna get this onto a board. Okay, so the cheese is nicely melted. You see the cheese oozing out of there. Okay, so we're gonna cut this in half. Trying not to cut the foil. Okay, and then we're gonna cut it in half again. Okay, look at this sandwich. You see that? This is one of the best sandwiches I have ever had. So you have to try it. It smells amazing, but you won't know that unless you do try it. So we're gonna get this plated. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. Look at this. I wish you could smell it. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and subscribe below if you haven't already, and like this video. And don't forget to leave me a comment, because I really would love to know if you've tried this recipe. So until next time.